Welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the main card fights for UFC Fight Night on ESPN Plus, Assuncao versus Moraes 2. And like I said, just the main card fights for this video. The prelims will be on another video. But yeah, let's just get straight to the prediction. So in our first fight on the main card, we have in the women's strawweight division, Souza versus Frota. So look how these two match up. Frota's coming off the Contender Series, an impressive performance. She's big, she's physically strong, but she's kind of a plodding striker on the feet. Takedown offense isn't the best, but she does got some pretty solid jiu-jitsu. But Souza, I feel like she has better jiu-jitsu. Her striking is more fluid, faster, and she's been in there with much better competition, more experience, all of those factors. And I'm always like to favor experience over, this physicality. And also when you got technique with that experience, I always tend to favor that over just the physicality of Frota. Yes, she can knock her on the feet with that power, but yes, she might be able to manhandle, but I just think that the technique's always 9 times out of 10 outworks that power and that strength. And I feel like Souza will be more fluid on the feet, more fluid on the ground, and she will know, to have a better understanding of Benny's position. She's been with higher level of competition. She was the Invicta champion, and that's the best organization for women outside the UFC. And so she's been in there with, pretty much the best competition she could get outside the UFC, whereas Frota really hasn't faced the best competition. So I think it's going to be, a learning curve in this fight. And I feel like Souza would just kind of edge her out, making smart decisions, making, just in the right position. It's like mid-fight decisions. That's where veterans win these fights. We need mid-fight decisions. Like they adapt, adjust in the fight, make these movements, and they make stuff to, counteract whatever advantages the other opponent has. I feel like she will do that in this fight against Frota. Probably a mixture of grappling and striking and clinching and all this stuff just to get that little bit of edge to win this fight. I don't think it won't be about a landslide, but I think it's going to be a clean, clear-cut decision. So in this fight, I got Souza via decision. Now on to our next fight we have in the light heavyweight division. So in the light heavyweight division, we have Johnny Walker versus Justin Ledet. So look at how these people match up. Justin Ledet is like a busted Larry Holmes with some pretty decent jiu-jitsu. And that's no knock on him. Larry Holmes is one of the greatest boxers of all time. So if he was Larry Holmes, like on the level of Larry Holmes, he'd be a scary dude right now. He probably would have stayed at heavyweight and knocked out Stipe Miocic and knocked out everybody else. But he's definitely not Larry Holmes, but he does kind of have a little bit of Larry Holmes to his style of boxing, a little bit, just a little bit, reminiscent. And then he has some pretty underrated jiu-jitsu. People kind of going to forget about that. Then you got Johnny Walker on the other end. I think he'll be highly favored going to this matchup. Was he like 6'6", 6'7", very jumpy, very wiry and all that other stuff. Got some big kicks. Got really the most deadly thing about him is his Muay Thai clinch. No, other than that, I don't really think he's that dangerous. I think his jiu-jitsu is pretty solid. I actually think Ledet has better jiu-jitsu. I think his hands are, like his punches really aren't the best. He kind of has soft hands. And he doesn't really have a jab, straight. And then on the kicks, he kind of throws a teep kick that he doesn't throw, at the best time. And like he'd be in range to get hit, even though he's on a teep kick. But really, I just think is his size. Matter of fact, it's just really his kicks from a distance and his, like his head kicks, maybe some body kicks. But as far as his hands go, they're pretty lacking. Unless he adapts, changes them. Because I think he got some money now after that last performance, getting a performance bonus coming to UFC. So I think he'll be able to, work to improve himself more and not really had to struggle to make ends meet and stuff. Now he got some more money. Now he can invest more in training. I think he'll do that. And maybe he'll actually add some, work on his striking as far as his hand techniques, like whether it be boxing or just clean his punches up. Just clean that up. I really don't think he has anything when you walk him down. He doesn't have any counters with his hands. So you get, don't go into clinching range with him and just go into boxing range. He's pretty much open right there, but I think he'll fix that. As far as Ledet, I think his holds will pretty much stay the same. He has that kind of that boxer's flaw as far as in MMA, where he kind of too planted on his front leg like a boxer like to do in MMA or in general. So he could just chop his leg down with leg kicks. I do think Johnny Walker has some solid kicks. I think he will take advantage of that. I think Ledet is the better grappler in my opinion. I think Johnny Walker is kind of too he's not patient enough with his jiu-jitsu, so he kind of gives up position a lot of time. So I do think Ledet is at least a little bit better with his jiu-jitsu than Walker is. I think by Walker chopping down legs, I think he'll at least be able to hold top position long enough, tear the leg up, and make it a hard fight for Ledet to really plan on his front lead leg to throw those jabs or those straights, throw those check hooks and all that stuff he likes to throw, and take off that power that he has. And I really think that's really the only chance that Ledet really has is a knockout, in my opinion. Like maybe catching Walker, but I think Walker would tear that front leg up, take him down. I don't think it's going to be a super dominant victory, but I think it's going to be more so clinical, in my opinion. I think it's going to be chopping that leg up, securing top position, maybe roughing him up in the clinch. I don't think he'll have as much success with that multi-clinch as he had against Khalil Roundtree, but I think he'll still be able to go to that well and, have some success there, mixing some kicks, mixing some takedowns, control the range, especially when he's chopping the leg kick up. Chopping that lead leg up. Ledet won't really be able to, walk him down as much. It'll slow his movement down and allow Walker to stay at his range, tear him up, take him down. And I think it will still be a fairly competitive fight. I don't think it'll be no one-sided victory or no knockout or submission. I think it's going to be competitive, but Walker just, doing work to that lead leg, and which will allow him to fight at his range is really going to be the tail of the tape for this fight. So in this fight, I got Johnny Walker via decision. Now on to our next fight we have in the lightweight division, Charles Olivera versus David Teymur. And Teymur is actually on a pretty good streak right now. He hasn't lost since he came in the UFC off the Ultimate Fighter season with, was it McGregor versus, I'm forgetting his team. McGregor versus, Team McGregor versus Team Favorite. But yeah, he hasn't lost since, like, the Battle of the Nations and all that stuff. But yeah, he hasn't lost since coming off the Ultimate Fighter. Though he might not have won the season, he's been undefeated since coming off that season. Probably the best person from that season, or having the most success, being the most active of all the fighters from that season. So he's been looking good. His striking been getting better. At least his MMA striking has been getting better. He already was a top-notch striker coming into MMA. Now he's getting more comfortable with that as far as MMA. His grappling's getting a little bit better. His cardio is getting much better. So he's looking pretty solid. It's like, you can't really sleep on him in this fight, but when you're going against Charles Oliveira, that's just a different beast. And I do think Teymur could take advantage of how stiff and upright Charles Oliveira stands, attacking that leg, coming with overhands and hooks around his guard. But I think Charles Oliveira, just like, at this point, you really can't pick against him too many times against too many people. He will kind of let you down at times, like often, like every now and then he'll let you down. But more time than not, Charles Oliveira is pretty much money. His first round is too dangerous in that first round. Like, it's too dangerous to really bet against him or pick against him. So I think he's a more well-rounded fighter. I don't think he's no slouch on the feet, even though Teymur will give us a pretty good advantage on the feet. But he's also pretty strong and can get it to the ground. He's not somebody that needs you to take him down or give him the opportunity. He will make opportunities to set up submission. Like, he'll snap your head down and go for those guillotines, or was like a Doris, or all types of different ways to attack submissions. And I think that 3 rounds, matter of fact, let me just get straight to the point. I just think Charles Oliveira is just too deadly, too many areas. And I think at some point he will have Teymur down. And I think once he gets him down, he'll be able to submit him, or at least control him. And I'm going to say, once he gets him down, I think he'll be able to submit him. That's really just straight to the point. I think Charles Oliveira, it'll be a competitive fight. Teymur will have his moments, but once Oliveira gets a hold of him, I think it's going to be a wrap. And I say it's going to be a second-round submission. So in this fight, I got Charles Oliveira via second-round submission. Now on to our next fight we have in the welterweight division, Damian Maia versus Lyman Good. So look at this match. Lyman Good is good. And former Bellator champion. I don't know, was that middleweight or welterweight, but definitely one of the original Bellator's original champions. Solid power. But in this fight, I just think he's a little bit outmatched. Even in the past, when you look at some of his losses, he's been out-grappled and out-wrestled and, laid and prayed by much less grapplers than Damian Maia. And you might look at Damian Maia's last losses to Woodley, Usman, and Covington. But those guys are in their own tier right now as far as wrestling and just winning, because nobody else has really beaten them in the past couple years. And they've just been winning. Like, who's beat them? And they're top-notch wrestlers, whereas Lyman Good is not a wrestler. I don't think he's a wrestler at all. As you've seen by his fights, he hasn't looked like to have really the best wrestling or the wrestling defense. And nobody really been able to stop Damian Maia, and Damian Maia is one of the most winning fighters of all time. And you talking about Lyman Good only having a puncher's chance. Who's really knocked out Damian Maia outside of Nate Marquardt? And he's been in there with Anderson Silva and Tyron Woodley. Anderson Silva is one of the greatest finishers of all time, one of the greatest champions of all time. If he didn't finish him, and only like Nate Marquardt was the only one who finished him, I only finished. As a matter of fact, he's been there with Covington, Usman, and Woodley, and none of them finished him. Been in there with Rory McDonald. I think it's safe to say he has a pretty good chin and he's pretty durable. So that knockout, I don't think it has the best chance of the knockout. You can't really rely on depending on that knockout to happen. I think Damian Maia, just on a different level of grappling, will be able to take him down and submit him rather quick. I say take him down in the first round, secure his back, and then just choke him out, get that rear naked choke. So in this fight, I got Damian Maia via first round submission. Now onto our co-main event, we have in the featherweight division, Jose Aldo versus Renato Moicano. So looking at this matchup, you got one guy who's right on the cusp of a title shot, and you got one guy who has accomplished so much in his career and is now talking about retirement, is like saying he's 3 or 4 fights left in his career before he retires. Want to retire healthily with his mind, his brain intact and all that stuff, his health intact and all that. And it's kind of weird that Jose Aldo is fighting Moicano when he says he wants to retire in like less than 5 fights. So why fight a guy who's right there for a title shot? Maybe 1 fight, or matter of fact, he might even need this fight to get a title shot. But so why fight that guy? Why hold him up? I know it might be good for for the legacy of Moicano, like he wants to fight Jose Aldo, but it's like Jose Aldo at this point, you're not going to fight for a title, or you don't want to fight for a title. Don't see yourself fighting for a title. Don't say like it's smart to fight for a title when you're talking about retirement. Why hold up a division, or at least hold up prospects or contenders? Why not just fight other legends, maybe who are considering retiring or maybe still around? Like fight a legend, you can fight somebody, bring somebody from 135 and fight them. You can fight somebody who's at 155, like move up and fight somebody at 155. Maybe even move up to 155 and fight somebody who coming down from 170. It could have been all types of legacy fight. He could fight RDA. That'd be a good fight. Could fight Pettis. It'd be a lot of different fights he could fight, and fight other legends, and just who already submitted their legacies and fight them like former champions. Just extend his legacy even more instead of holding up these fighters who still trying to make their legacies at this point. But that's besides the point. So how do they match up? I think Moicano, really his strengths are that he's longer, he's taller, and his mind is on the prize, whereas Jose Aldo's mind is on the door, or like his mind is on the exit. But when you look at Jose Aldo, who he's lost to, like, I'm not talking about his original loss, but I'm talking like I'm not talking about his first loss, but I'm talking about his last 3 losses to Conor McGregor, to Max Holloway twice. He lost to people who are better boxers than him. And it's not just like just any boxer. These are some of the best boxers in MMA history, pound for pound, all time, top 10, if not top 5, in Conor McGregor and Max Holloway. These are some of the best boxers MMA has ever seen. And that's only people he lost to. He didn't lose to somebody, these Muay Thai strikers like Moicano is. Moicano is not a boxer. He's more of like a modified Muay Thai striker, or Muay Thai striker. But he's a little bit more mobile, but he more so fights like a Muay Thai striker. Not only have the best jab, but he does have some great straight punches, some real good heavy leg kicks and stuff like that, good body kicks. Really haven't seen this clinch too much, but more so, he does got some decent elbows. More so a modified Muay Thai striker. That's what he is. And that's not what Jose Aldo's, kryptonite has been in his UFC career, WEC career. That has not been his kryptonite. So I really think that Jose Aldo's going to have advantage on the feet. And when you look, matter of fact, let's take another backtrack or a sidetrack. When we look at Brian Ortega, how Brian Ortega looked against Max Holloway just destroyed Brian Ortega. And really the only person who's really held their own with Max Holloway in the last couple years is Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo, at least for the first couple rounds, was able to hold his own with Max Holloway until he gassed out. And we saw like Ortega against Max Holloway, he just completely got wrecked. So I didn't think Jose Aldo, even though he might not be the Jose Aldo of old, or maybe his mind might not be like we was called, his motivation or his hunger might not be as sharp as it was in the past. I still think he's still at a different level than most of these fighters. And that's no knock on Moicano, is a very good fighter. But I think Jose Aldo's quick twitch, his reaction time, his legendary takedown defense, and his striking, I think it's still going to be better than Moicano's. I think his jiu-jitsu's still better. Striking's still better. Definitely been in there with much higher level competition. I think Moicano has never been in there with somebody as good as Aldo. He's been in there with Ortega, lost to Ortega. And matter of fact, let's talk about the Ortega loss a little bit more. Or he really had Ortega outmatched on the feet, but he really got mentally broken down by Ortega's forward pressure. And that's what Jose Aldo will do to him. Jose Aldo's not going to allow him to fight on the outside. He's going to chop his legs up. He's going to march him down, rip his body, rip his head, and do a lot of pretty much what Ortega did to him, but even worse. He definitely has harder, faster, sharper with his boxing than Ortega. And that's really not going to bode too well for Moicano. Yes, he's going to be able to fight on the outside for a little bit, but once Aldo starts chopping the leg down, pretty much breaking his wills and marching him down, I think it's going to be like a teardown effect. First the legs, and then once he gets on inside, rip the body, rip the head, and just be tearing Moicano up. And I think it's going to be not like an early stoppage. I'm not an early stoppage, not like a first or second round stoppage, but like more so like a third round stoppage, because it's going to have to take a process of him, chopping down the tree that is Moicano. And then I see a third round stoppage for Jose Aldo. So in this fight, I got Jose Aldo via third round TKO. Now onto our main event. We have in the bantamweight division, Rafael Assuncao versus Marlon Moraes. So looking back at the first fight was very close. Marlon Moraes only landed one more significant strike than Assuncao over the course of 3 rounds, and that was in the first round where he landed one more significant strike than Assuncao. But the second and third rounds were dead even as far as significant strikes. So the fight was very close, and it wouldn't have been a robbery if it would have went either way. So Moraes could have won the fight, it wouldn't have been a robbery. Assuncao could have won the fight, it wouldn't have been a robbery. It could have been a draw. and that would have been a justified decision. So a very close first fight. When we look back at that first fight as well, you see that Moraes was the bigger fighter and he was the faster fighter. But Assuncao was maybe a little bit more crafty, being used to those 3 rounds, being used to the octagon, being used to the, like, already having several fights under Zuffa with WEC in the UFC. So he had much more experience inside that octagon, inside that element. And he kind of took it to his favor. Also, Moraes was coming from World Series of Fighting where he had been a champion for a pretty decent amount of time. He'd been used to 5 rounds. And also looking about that, mentioning that 5-round thing, we look at how the first fight played out. It was more so like the first 2, like pretty much 2.5 rounds were pretty close. Then down the stretch, it seemed like Moraes started to, kick it on. Like he started to hit that switch. Like he was used to having 5-round fights. So like those champions that are used to 5-round fights, sometimes they kick it in a little bit later because they're not used to having just 3 rounds. So their switch doesn't turn on as fast. But it seemed like in that third, like that mid part of that 3rd round, Moraes like a switch turned on in his, in his body or in his head, like it just turned on. It seemed like Assuncao kind of turned off in that last 2 minutes. Moraes like started doing more feints. His timing started getting better. He started getting the reads for Assuncao more down that third, like that last 2 or 3 minutes. And more so like he was picking apart Assuncao, was coming close to some spinning head kicks, catching with hooks, catching with a bunch of different stuff towards the end of that 3rd round. Like he just turned it on. And I think that's going to be a significant factor in this fight now that this is a 5-round fight and not a 3-round fight. And also that Moraes has had several fights in the UFC now and against top-level competition in all 3 of them. His debut was against Assuncao, then he fought Dawson, then he fought Sterling, then he fought Jimmy Rivera. So he's used to the octagon now. He's used to 3-round fights. And overall, this is just all factors well for him going into this fight. And now let's look back at the first fight again. The first round was pretty close. As a matter of fact, all the rounds were pretty close. Like I said, they were the same amount of strikes in every round except the first. So the first round was pretty close. I say Moraes won most of that first round. It probably would have been his round clear if he didn't get caught to end that round, which might have swayed it to Assuncao. He got caught with a good right hand. He didn't get dropped, but it still buzzed him, still tagged him, and could have caused judges to give that round to Assuncao. Then the second round, I say it was more Marlon Moraes round, even though they landed the same amount of strikes. But like Marlon Moraes landed cleaner, harder strikes in that second round, controlled the range, controlled the pace, controlled the tempo. So the second round was Marlon Moraes. Then the third round, Marlon Moraes got caught to start the round, got caught with a good right hand. Buzz, hands touched the ground, but quickly recovered. And then for the rest of that round, I say more so Marlon Moraes started to pick it up. Like I said, in that last 2 or 3 minutes, he was completely in his zone, and it was like he was more so controlling that fight down that last stretch, landing big shots, had Assuncao's timing and his tempo and understanding what Assuncao was thinking. Like he had a good feel for Assuncao, a good read for what Assuncao was doing, and was picking him apart down that last 2 minutes to the bell. So very close fight. If maybe Assuncao didn't land that big punch to start the third round, maybe that would have been a clear Moraes round. Maybe if Moraes didn't get caught at the end of the first round, it would have been a clear first round for Moraes. So just like these big things that Assuncao did in the first and the third, kind of could have swayed the judges to give him just that nod, or 2 to 3 judges to give him that nod. So it was a very close fight. But as a matter of fact, one of the judges had Assuncao win all 3 rounds. But like I said, it was a very close fight. Moraes landed 1 significant strike more than Assuncao, so it wouldn't have been a robbery or a bad decision either way. Maybe 30-27 is a bad decision, but a very tight fight nonetheless. But now going to this fight, like I said, I feel like Moraes turned it on in the later portion of that first fight, or that very last round, the third round, 2 minutes left, 2-3 minutes left. I feel like that's going to factor into this fight to being a 5-round fight. And I feel like Moraes is going to take some time to, get a read for what Assuncao is doing. He's going to have to, engage him in his point fight. But over the course of rounds, that championship experience, that championship muscle memory is going to kick in around that third round, like towards the mid part of that third round. And then he's going to carry that in the 4th and 5th round. Him having much more championship experience than Moraes, him being the quicker twitch fighter, him being the fast fighter. It's not like he's a quick twitch fighter that has a cardio issue. He's gonna have that through 5 rounds. He's not gonna get faded, and the muscle's not gonna get exhausted. And I don't think it's gonna be a style where their styles match up where Assuncao can necessarily drain his muscle, because Assuncao, the grappling is just about even. So Assuncao can't really wrestle and lay and pray him and clinch him up, and Moraes really can't do the same to Assuncao. So it's more so gonna be a point fighting type of striking matchup, maybe with some mixing grappling here and there. But for the most part, 80% of this fight is definitely gonna play out on the feet, and mostly kind of at distance, I would say. Like mid-range to long distance. But like I said, to get to the point, I think Moraes is going to be at a breakaway towards the end of that third round and win the fourth and fifth. Whether the first two rounds go to Assuncao Moraes, I think that Moraes is going to win the last 3 rounds, and that's going to allow him to win a very close decision. But I think he's going to be able to win a couple clear rounds, whether it be like at least 2 clear rounds between the third, fourth, and fifth. He's going to win 2 clear rounds. Be another close decision, but those clear rounds and those championship rounds are those big rounds, like the fourth and fifth rounds, are going to be the determining factor in who wins. And like I said, Marlon Moraes is the one with significantly more experience in those championship 5-round fights than Assuncao. Though Assuncao has fought a lot of top level competition, Moraes has fought way more championship fights than Assuncao, way more 5-round fights than Assuncao. Like I said, close fight, but I'm going to go with Marlon Moraes via decision. So in this fight, I got Marlon Moraes via decision. And that concludes my fight predictions for UFC Fight Night on ESPN Plus, Assuncao versus Moraes 2. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.